Hey, what's up, y'all? And of course, welcome to another alternative factuals video. And in this video, it's, as you see in the title, the importance of Mysterio in the Spider-Man lore mythos for the MCU going into phase 4, 5, and all that jazz. Wherever you see Spider-Man, I want to discuss how important he is when it comes to his character and his introduction into the MCU for the future of films regarding Spider-Man. So before I dive into any of that, please be sure to, of course, like, share, and subscribe. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think, your opinions and your theories, all that stuff I want to know. Please leave them in the comments. Like I said, I will respond to every single one of them. And without further ado, let's kind of just dive into today's topic. Okay. So for a little backstory, I would say usually don't do this, but for the most part, I'm not necessarily a comic book channel in terms of me discussing issues, dates, and all that stuff. But remember, Mysterio, his first appearance was in Spider-Man number 13 in June 1964 and was created by the GOAT Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. So this is a character that's been around for a really long time, and then, you know, he has a lot of history when it comes to Spider-Man as well as in the Marvel universe as like a whole. As well as there's been multiple people who've played his certain iterations of him, where, you know, we have the most common version of him, Quentin Beck, the most, I guess, socially acceptable version of him that everyone kind of goes to when comparing him to other villains or other people, or even just when it comes to the Sinister Six. Now, for those of you who don't know or haven't seen any of the trailers, or you're trying to avoid it, or maybe just for some reason you just haven't seen it for some reason, which is totally possible, maybe you just have a busy life, but in Spider-Man Far From Home, we are seeing that Mysterio is introduced kind of as a good guy. Now, we don't really know too much about him. For the most part, we can kind of see from the trailers that he's kind of working with Peter Parker and Nick Fury, and supposedly he comes from an alternate Earth, and Marvel's kind of taking this route when it comes to that. And he's supposed to be fighting these beings called the Elementals. The Elementals are 4 extra-dimensional humanoids who become immortals with the power over natural forces, and they rule different kingdoms of the original Atlantis, blah, 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 blah. But ultimately, these people do have names. The Elementals do have names. I'm trying to remember correctly. I think it was Hydron, Lord of the Waters, Magnum, Master of the Earth, Hellfire, obviously Flame, and Zephyr, Mistress of the Winds. Okay, so there we go. So they're using this as kind of like a catalyst or a launching off point to kind of introduce the villain or the character Mysterio into the MCU films. And I kind of want to discuss how important he is, as well as throw in the theory that I think a lot of people are kind of seeing online and kind of can agree about. But Mysterio I think he's playing the good guy for right now, and he's kind of doing this thing where on his Earth he wasn't really a good guy. He was kind of faking being a good guy, and then actually he got outed, and then saw an opportunity to come to an alternate Earth and become a hero. But I'm going to dive a little bit more into that theory a little later. Now, in Marvel Comics in general, I don't even think Mysterio has ever really been portrayed as a good guy. His motivations have obviously changed, and, you know, over the course of time, you know, there's different reasons why he commits certain crimes and the things that he does over the course of his publication history, of course. And that's obviously no surprise, because even though he's a fictional character, he is still a fictional human character who ultimately just still has human motivations, human means in terms of achieving the goals that he wants to do. Fine. But what makes him interesting is Mysterio is one of those characters, especially from the Sinister Six, where he has been ultimately involved with almost all of Spider-Man's villains throughout his entire Spider-Man publication history, all the way from the original Amazing Spiderman number 1 or whatever like that. He has had a huge, massive, you know, just standing in the Spider-Man mythos and lore. So the reason why I feel like it's important to introduce a character such as Mysterio is for one simple fact. He is the bridging point between people like the Vulture or Dr. Octavius or the Chameleon, or, you know, people of any sorts, you know, any villain that you've seen in the Sinister Six throughout the publication history. These are people that actually Mysterio, for the most part, has worked with. Now remember, Mysterio is a really talented guy. He's actually a very prodigious hand-to-hand combatant. Also, he specializes in a lot of the illusions and hypnotism, and some would consider him a magician and an amateur chemist as well. And he has some sort of expertise when it comes to robotics and different mechanisms, so that way he can make these illusions seem very real. So he's a very talented guy, and like I said, he is no joke. And in several occasions, he was actually able to trick Spider-Man's spider sense because his illusions seem so real. So he is someone you definitely don't want to mess with, in combination with his other abilities and what he's capable of when it comes to his intelligence, as well as his hand-to-hand combatant and his attack potency. All right, so let's dive back into the theory while I kind of combine it with the what I was saying before in terms of the relevance, in terms of him being a launching point for Spider-Man and the whole next phase 4 and 5 and all that stuff for the whole mythos of it. So of course, like I said, Mysterio, he's a very important character. And the theory is, at least a few of them that I've seen, and I think this is very much a possibility because I think they took this route with a different character. I believe it was Hyperion in the Ultimate, it might have been the Avengers cartoon series, but I'll try not to kind of, I think they did this, so I'm not going to really hold water. So I'm not going to say really hold water in it, but let's just say, let's forget all that, and let's just say, for example, that Mysterio, someone who comes from an alternate Earth, let's say he attempted to be a hero on his Earth, and he was outed. Basically, he's kind of like Booster Gold, except Booster Gold ultimately wasn't really evil. He just, you know, just wanted to go to the past so that way he could be a hero. So let's say Mysterio was a good guy, or attempted to be a good guy, or posed as a good guy on his Earth, and then he was outed for being a fake, a phony, or he did very scrupulous things, or he made a very big mistake, whether it was intentional or non-intentional, and thus it just altered his reputation as a hero, and then he no longer could be a hero on his Earth. Now there's a very massive possibility that he saw an opportunity to come to this Earth after the whole Thanos snap and the whole, you know, wiping out half the life in the universe kind of thing, that he came to this Earth seeking an opportunity to become a good guy, and then not only chasing the elementals onto this Earth, but there's a possibility as well that he released them and allowed them to jump into this Earth so that way he can be seen as a hero, where basically this is all a facade that he's doing, posing that way so that way people can trust him. He can be the hero that he always wanted to be on his Earth, except he's doing it on a different Earth, and he's being a mentor to Peter Parker, Spider-Man, who just recently kind of got into the superhero game and is kind of still lost, because remember, this takes place right after Endgame. So Peter Parker is still dealing with a lot of those feelings when it comes to him losing Tony Stark, the death of Tony Stark, and just everyone is out doing their own thing. Thor's in space, and Black Widow is dead, obviously. Hawkeye kind of retired. Captain America retired. He's old. He's lived his full life. So you have these different things, and Spider-Man in a lot of ways is kind of by himself, and he still is trying to figure out what to do with himself. And imagine someone coming from an alternate Earth who you'd see as a hero. You're initially introduced to him as a hero, and then you think he's a hero, so naturally you're more likely to trust him. People are more likely to trust him, even to some degree, even though Nick Fury never trusts anybody. He's a little bit more lenient, I guess, because as of right now he has no evidence to prove that he is a bad guy. But there is a very strong possibility that they're going to kind of transition him into the bad guy thing, where he starts to kind of be a little bit too excessive when it comes to the things that he does on this Earth, where he's trying too hard to be a hero, and eventually, like he probably might have on his original Earth, he's going to get outed, and that's when he's going to transition into the hero, or not the hero, but the villain. And then at some point he's going to start collecting villains and gathering villains and forming the Sinister Six, because he feels in some way, shape, or form that maybe Spider-Man betrayed him, or maybe Nick Fury betrayed him. But whatever, you know, he feels in terms of the ultimate end game for his character, in terms of him turning into a villain, ultimately he is going to turn into a villain, and he's just basically a bridging point in which they can kind of introduce other characters. Remember, we already have the Vulture. At this point we have Mysterio, and Mysterio has had involvement with every single supervillain that there ever was in the Spider-Man mythos. I think even a couple times he's ran into Venom to some degree, but I never think for an super extended period of time. But ultimately he will transition into a villain. It's all just a matter of when. So I guess the ultimate question I think a lot of people are trying to figure out is what exactly would be his plan when he decides to transition to be a villain. Or let's say he came to the Earth and he already had some sort of plan in motion, or, you know, whatever kind of concoction he has to take over, I guess, this Earth, or defeat the superheroes, or whatever you want to call it. Honestly, I don't know. Like I said, this is just a theory, but what would his plan be? Remember, he is a master manipulator with his illusions. He's considered an expert magician. He's a prodigious hand-to-hand combatant. Even though this is the Ultimate Universe in terms of what I'm about to reference right now, remember, his illusions, all these effects were able to trick someone with the senses of like animal, pretty much. Remember, in the Ultimate Universe, Mysterio, who I guess presumably we can assume had the same kind of origin, not in the Ultimate Universe, but in the Old Man Logan universe, he tricked Old Man Logan into killing the entire team of X-Men. And literally, in order to trick someone like Logan, you would have to fool his nose, you would have to fool his sense of touch, his sense of taste, everything. He would literally have to taste everything. He has to literally smell everything. He has to literally feel everything. And if you can trick the senses of Wolverine, one of the best trackers in the Marvel universe, someone like that is going to be a problem, simply because he can kind of get over on everyone, as well as he can trick Spider-Man's spider sense because his illusions are just that powerful. But let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know how you're feeling in terms of his motivations and when do you think he's going to turn evil. I just kind of want to understand, or want you guys to understand, why he's so important, because like I said, he has a lot of relations when it comes to different villains, as well as why I feel like they're using this as a slow build to introduce him as a hero, to ultimately get to his downfall and become a villain, and all it is a matter of time. But if you're new to the channel, please be sure to like, share, and of course subscribe. I'll leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think, and I hope to see you later on. Peace out.